poem The Spider and the Fly. Alright, we have finished 5 stanzas. Now 6 and 7 stanzas are still left. Okay, so this portion we have finished, and this is where we stopped. Until that is, I am bidding you good morning now, I will call another day. Alright, so she did not. And then, so the fly this time changes her approach. She is not as determined, as firm as initially, and now she says that she will call another day. So an indication for the spider to hope for. Alright? And then we continue with that. The spider turned him round about and went into his den, for well he knew the silly fly would soon be back again. So he wove a subtle web in a little corner sly, and set his table ready to dine upon the fly. Then he came out to his door again, and merrily did sing, "Come hither, hither, pretty fly, with the pearl and silver wing. Your robes are green and purple, that's a crest upon your head. Your eyes are like the diamond bright, but mine are dull as lead." So that's where we stop. So this time well, he knew the silly fly. Silly means foolish. The foolish fly would come back. So that he was sure of. And once he was sure that the fly is going to come back, so he makes the preparations. Alright? For well he knew the silly fly would soon be back again. So the foolish fly knew would come back. So he wove a subtle web in a little corner sly. Alright? Slyly means secretly. So slyly or secretly, like a thief, he weaves a subtle web. Subtle. What is subtle? Unnoticeable. Alright? Unnoticeable. Unnoticeable web. That's what he drew there. Okay. Then, after that, what the fly does is, he weaves a subtle web that cannot be easily seen as a trap or cannot be easily noticed. And then, slyly, that means very secretly, like a thief, and set his table ready to dine upon the fly. See, and he set his table. That means he laid the table. Not to dine with the guest, as I told you, but to dine upon the fly. That means to feast upon the fly's flesh. Alright? He's going to feed upon the fly. That's the difference. So the table is laid for his own feast, and not to dine with the fly as a earphone. Then he came out to his door again and merrily did sing, "Come hither, hither, pretty fly, with the pearl and silver wing." So that's where he had managed to capture this fly's attention. He attacked her vanity, tempted her with vanity. He praised her falsely, or he praised her, and I said, vanity is something that everyone gets affected by. "Come hither, hither, pretty fly." Pretty means beautiful fly, with the pearl and silver wing. See, now he calls her wings as bright as pearls, as white as pearls, and as shining as the metal silver. So that's the temptation offered to her. Your robes are green and purple. Your robes, the color of the fly's skin. Alright? The color of the fly. It's dressed in what color? Green and purple. The color of the fly was a mixture of green and purple, very attractive. And it says, there is a crest upon your head. There's a crest. What's a crest? I said a growth of flesh on the head of usually a bird is known as a crest. It's a decorative piece. Like for instance, if you look at a rooster, you shall find this. And the same way, this fly does have an antenna. And that's what is referred to here. Okay. Your eyes are like the diamond bright, but mine are dull as a lead. It says, your eyes are so bright, so shiny, just like a diamond that emits light or brightness. But mine, in contrast to that, is like the dull lead, the metal lead, which has no color, which is very dull colored. Okay. So he is depreciating himself in order to establish a contrast and to tempt the fly further with vanity. Okay, now we proceed with the lesson today. Alas, alas, how very soon this silly little fly, hearing his wily, flattering words, came slowly flitting by. With buzzing wings she hung aloft, then nearer and nearer drew, thinking only of her brilliant eyes and green and purple hue, thinking only of her crested head. Poor excuse me. Okay. Okay. It says, alas, hearing this flattering words came slowly flitting by, thinking only of her brilliant eyes and green and purple hue, thinking only of her crested head. Poor foolish thing, at last, up jumped the cunning spider and fiercely held her fast. He dragged her upon his winding stair into his dismal den, within his little parlor, but she never came out again. Okay, so that's what we are going to study today. Now, alas, alas is a poetic expression, a poetic way of expressing lament, poetic lament. So we call it a poetic lament. Alright? That is the poet's way of mourning. Lament. Which expresses, oh no. Alright? Oh no, that shouldn't have happened. How very soon the silly little fly, silly means foolish. Foolish little fly, hearing his wily flattering words. Alright? Wily flattering. Wily means devious. Devious Flattery means false praise. Flattery means false praise. Words came slowly flitting by. Flitting by. That means flying or fluttering. Alright? Flying or a fluttering. The way these butterflies and so on flies is called fluttering. Okay, so here we see, what do we see here? Here actually what we are seeing is we almost see the poet has said, oh no. And then we never expected this flight to be so foolish. Alright? But now that we understand the fly was led by or tempted by the flattering or false praise of a flattery or the false praise of the fly, and it just gave into that temptation and approached the spider's web. And what does that suggest? That we can only foresee the doom for the fly. So that is the end of the fly. We understand already, isn't it? Okay. Then we proceed further. With buzzing wing she hung aloft, then near and nearer drew, thinking only of her brilliant eyes and green and purple hue. So, now what does it say? We saw the fly initially as a voice, and as it came slowly flitting by. Slowly, what does that suggest? So she is still at guard. She is still at guard, and she becomes we find her as a wise creature in the beginning of the poem. But now, as she comes closer, she is tempted by this praise. She is on her guard. Why? Slowly suggests she is on guard. She is on guard, but then she draws nearer and thinking only of her brilliant eyes and purple hue, green and purple hue. What does that indicate? That says, vanity shall be her downfall. Vanity shall be her downfall. Because the poor fly has been deceived by the devious sweet talk of the spider. The devious or deceptive sweet talk of the spider leads her, and when she is thinking only of herself. Her downfall therefore is caused by the vanity, or she forgets her sense, her instinct, and then she is thinking only of herself, her beauty, and she wants to see her reflection in the mirror, which the spider has told her is placed in his little parlor, and she wants to see that. So that vanity, to see herself in the mirror, leads to the catastrophe. So she sets aside her sensible self. Her sensible self is set aside because she is thinking only of her brilliant eyes, green and purple shade. Hue means color or shade. Alright? Thinking only of her crested head, poor foolish thing at last. Alright? So, at last. So that is the end of her. That's the end of her. She is thinking only of herself, and her vanity has overtaken her, and therefore she is thinking only of herself, and at last going to her doom. Up jumped the cunning spider, fiercely held her fast. And the spider has been waiting for this critical moment. He did not give the fly a chance to escape. He pounced upon her. He pounced upon her. Alright? And held her fast. Held her fast means tightly or fiercely. From where she could not escape. She just had no way of escaping. And that's what happened. So there he is, the climax of it. And the readers know what exactly is going to happen to her. So though she came flitting by, that is still guardedly testing the waters. But then, up to this point, she has her sense or instinct leading her. So she's testing the waters. But then, see, here the change happens. She is thinking only of herself, her beauty, her appearance, her eyes, her color, and her crest. All this. She wants to reflection of it in the mirror. And this leads her to the final catastrophe where she walks into the spider's parlor or the spider's web, and where the spider loses not a moment, it instantly pounces upon her and grips her firmly. Alright? He tightens his grip on her, holds her tightly or fiercely, with no chance for her to escape. Alright? And then he dragged her up the winding stair into his dismal den. And he drags her. Earlier description of his parlor was as a pretty little beautiful place. And curtained, well curtained, with a showcase, with a mirror and all those things, bright and beautiful. But look at the description, dismal den, dismal, dull or dark, or murky, if you are murky. Den is a lair, the hiding place of a wild animal, alright? A dark place, a dungeon. So see the description of his parlor changes, how it changes into a different mode. Within his little parlor, so he drags her up into the dark parlor of his. And the readers can conclude what is the fate of this little fly. Because she herself has said, that see, within his little parlor, but she never came out again. So this is what we had seen earlier, anyone who went into his parlor, that's what the fly had heard, and she had told that to the spider. She has heard that anyone who went into his parlor never returned again. They were finished there. That was the end of them. And that's exactly what is going to be the fate of this little fly. Alright? Everyone knows that the fly is never going to return again. And the poet tells us very clearly, she never came out again, as was the case of all the previous visitors to his father. This little fly also never returned. Okay, never returned. Now we move on to the last stanza. Last stanza, it says, and here what we notice is the poet changes the tone. The poet changes the tone. The narrative style is changed. The poet, as she ends her tale. So she breaks off from this storytelling mode, and now she is addressing the audience directly, right? And she gives them a moral or a warning or an instruction. See, now I have told you the story of the spider and the fly. But now you must learn a lesson from this. So she concludes the poem by addressing her audience. That's how she addresses. And now, dear little children, because I told you this story poem was mainly written for children. But even for the adults, there is something to learn. There is a message. And what is the warning that she addresses the children directly. And now, dear little children, who may this story read? All those children who shall be reading this story, to them, to idle, silly, flattering words, I pray never give heed. Unto an evil counselor close heart, and ear and eye, and take a lesson from this tale of the spider and the fly. So the message is very clear, that be very idle. Idle means useless. Useless. Alright? Silly means foolish. Flattering means false praise. Alright? Okay? So what is she telling? She is telling us you should be distrustful. You should be distrustful of all those useless and sweet talk. Useless, apparently sweet talk. That is insincere. That is insincere. Just like the spider's speech. The spider told the fly that her color was fantastic, her eyes were so bright and brilliant, and she had a lovely crest upon her head. All these were deceptive. He wanted basically to cheat her, deceive her, trap her. The same way, so his praises were insincere. They were insincere, false praises. And then, so therefore, do not give heed to false talks, useless talks, sweet talks. Be distrustful of it. Because what does he say? Not all praise or advice is genuine. All the praises that you receive and all the advice that you receive are genuine or sincere. Not all. Alright? Not all praises, not all advices that you receive are sincere or genuine. Therefore, you must be very careful to whom you listen to. You must be very careful about to whom you are listening. And then she says, unto an evil counselor. A counselor is a person who gives advice. A person who gives advice. Okay? So, to an evil counselor, a person who is evil and tries to counsel you, advise you, what should you do to them? He says, close your heart to such people, such evil advisors. Close your ears, don't pay any attention to what they say, and your eye. So your senses should be closed. She doesn't stop at that again. Look at that. And take lesson from this tale of the spider and the fly. She says, you should, or she would rather say, never come in contact with such people. Avoid them. And you should always avoid such sweet-tongued people with not so sweet intentions. Alright? See, they are like the spider, sweet-tongued, yet not having very so sweet intentions. The spider's intention was very clear, but the fly in the beginning was wise enough to see through it, but eventually, because of her vanity, gave into got into his trap and perished. So, do not be foolish like the fly. Be wise and if possible, avoid coming in contact with such people, with the sweet talk or sweet tongued people who have no such sweet intentions. Their intentions are deceptive, and therefore you should not follow them. Is that clear? So that is the moral of the story. It's a very simple poem to start with. So we have finished this poem. I have told you a lot of things about the style and pattern and so on. And now we have wound up this with the moral, with the story. I said this is a fable basically, which has a moral instruction or teaching or a lesson. And so the lesson is, keep away from evil people. Do not take their advice. Do not be led by their flattery, and do not be led by vanity. Be sober, be very wise, and go by your instinct, your sixth sense or your spider sense, and then you will be successful.